When I was younger, I was kind of that typical ADD kid that couldn't sit still, so my mom was always throwing me outside and saying, go play. And I'd play in the neighborhood with the guys. We'd play a lot of either, football or baseball, flies and grounders. And then once I got old enough to play organized sports, I started playing a lot of youth softball. But I was usually a shortstop or an outfielder, and I didn't start to pitch till a little bit later. So as I got into high school, I played field hockey, I played basketball, and I played softball. And then softball, of course, was something that I was very passionate about. I didn't start to pitch, though, until my sophomore year in high school. So that was very interesting because most young athletes start pitching nowadays when they're 8, 9 years old. So I didn't really start to pitch when I was 15. So I had a late start, but worked very hard in the off season. So I'd pitch after field hockey practice, I'd pitch after basketball practice, and ended up being pretty successful. Did my homework, took physics, and started to understand the pitching motion, why things worked, why they didn't work, and but I enjoyed it. I just was always that kid that liked to move and keep busy, so sports was a great opportunity for me to burn off that energy. Starting late was a big challenge that I had to overcome. Learning how to deal with the adversity and learning how to be a pitcher where a lot of the pressure is on your shoulders and you can throw one bad pitch and the team can lose the game. So that was a challenge for me. And then I went on to throw, obviously, in college. I went to Oklahoma State University, and after my freshman year in college, I was involved in a car accident, and I ended up, of all parts of my body, I ended up hurting my left elbow, and so being a left-handed pitcher, that wasn't so great. So I was actually lucky to be alive after the accident. I was ejected out of a truck going about 40 miles an hour, and it chopped off part of my elbow bone. They told me I'd never pitch again, but I was really fortunate. I had a great training staff at Oklahoma State University. They got my arm rehabbed back. I think the hardest thing for me was getting the range of motion back. After I got out of that cast, I could only move my arm about 15 degrees, so it was a big challenge to get the range of motion back, then get my muscle back because my arm was severely atrophied. So yeah, I was really fortunate to be able to come back from that adversity, but it taught me a lot about pitching, about who I was as a person, and just life isn't always easy. After I came back from the accident, I was for university, went on to then play for the U.S. national team, and which was always an honor. And that was probably my ultimate goal, was to represent the United States of America, wear that red, white, and blue, jersey, and just to me that was that would be the pinnacle of your sport, is being good enough to be one of the best to wear that USA uniform. So ironically enough, that accident that I talked about, the date of that accident was July 21st, 1986. Well, the first ever Olympic softball game was July 21st, 1996. So it was 10 years to the day of the first ever Olympic softball game. So a lot of times when I talk to people and say, you don't know why things happen or you have to overcome adversity, that's a pretty good example of that. I was told I would never pitch again. Well, 10 years later, I was walking on the field in a U.S. uniform to play in the first ever Olympic softball game. So that was my first Olympic gold medal, is what I like to say. When you come down to a win or go home situation like what you guys are in, you just need to make sure that you're at that peak performance, that peak area of performance where you are focused for the next hour and a half on nothing but softball, nothing but what you're doing, what your teammates are doing. Don't worry about what you're having for dinner, or if you're going to see your boyfriend on Friday or whatever. You can worry about all that stuff after your hour and a half is over. So just give every ounce of your energy to every single pitch, every single play. Any athlete in any field, I think the big thing is your effort. I always like to say it's like E squared. It's excellence and effort. Just give a little bit more, and a lot of times that's what separates the good from the great. And that great person, that great athlete, that great mentality, always is willing to give just a little bit more. So I think that's the big thing, and then I think a lot of it too is confidence. Is just knowing that if you put your homework in and you put in that extra little bit of effort, have the confidence to go out there and realize that. Be passionate, love what you do, and don't view setbacks or failure as anything other than learning experiences. View them as stepping stones, or to help step up. That not that it's a step back.